The news out of Italy this morning, or today, is all wrapped up in a nice package for us. We have the announcement by the head of the Democratic Party saying you can't form a coalition government. We have the police in Milan raiding the Nomura offices, looking for documents about the
right now it's happening.
It's happening. And we have an IMF report talking about the secret role of foundations in banks like Monte dei Paschi di Siena, which is at the root of this problem. Bloomberg News in January broke the story about how Monte dei Paschi had used derivatives deals with Deutsche Bank to hide losses. Ever since then, it became a huge scandal in Italy. It was a big factor in the presidential elections in February. It took away support from the Democratic Party, which controls the government of Siena, which controls the foundation, which controls the bank.
But why is Nomura getting raided if it was Deutsche who helped hide these trades?
There were at least 3 different derivatives deals. The first one that came out that we reported on was Deutsche Bank. And it subsequently became clear that another derivatives deal with Nomura had done the same thing. And there's a third deal, which the outlines of which are still being discovered, and maybe more.
Is the situation confined to Monte dei Paschi, or can we draw some conclusions about Italian banking and these foundations in general from the experience of this bank?
So in 1990, when most banks in Italy were owned by the government, the then Prime Minister put through a law to help privatize the banks, and they did it through this structure of foundations, where they moved the state ownership of the banks into these private nonprofit foundations, which were supposed to be charitable organizations. Over the years, many of them have sold off their shares in these banks to the public. But in the case of Monte dei Paschi in Siena, which is the 3rd largest bank in Italy, the foundation kept a huge stake. It was 48% a year ago. It's now down to 34%. But and that's how political control was being exercised through the.
But how do these foundations still have all this control?
This is Italy. The foundations get money from dividends, that the bank pays them, and uses that money to disperse for local projects, like the Palio horse race in Siena is funded by the foundation that owns this stake in the bank.
It's such a glamorous event. Everybody wants to go.
Except they don't have the money to pay for the Palio this year. They had to withdraw the funds.
At the very least, a cautionary tale, and clearly Italian banking needs some more restructuring. Robert, before you go, we'd like to play an excerpt from an interview that Brian Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, gave to Charlie Rose last night. Have a look.
This is the best job there is, and you know, well, there have been times when you'd sit there and say, geez, this is a lot of pounding. You always keep your eye on the purpose you're here, and it's to help those people live their financial lives. And if you really keep focused on that, I could do this the rest of my life.
Clearly, Bank of America is a long way away from Monte dei Paschi, and Brian Moynihan doesn't have nearly the kinds of problems that bank has had. But
the best job in the world?
The best job there is?
I don't know. I think he's happy that he survived. He had a pretty rocky year in 2011. Things were looking a little better last year, so maybe he's feeling a little more upbeat.
But when we hear bank CEOs say things like, you know, we've heard from others, you know, we want to do socially conscious investing. Lloyd Blankfein has said there's nothing else I'd want to do in the world. You are all over the banking universe. Do you have a hard time believing this when you look at what bankers have gone through?
It's spin, Stephanie. It's spin. That's not their real business. That's what they say to make us feel good.